happening? The Matt Bernier Show here on DRFTV, live.drf.com, livestream.com, Daily Racing Forms Twitter handle at DRF Inside Post, as well as the Daily Racing Forms Facebook page. My name's Matt Bernier. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. This is the recap show. We're going to go back, take a look at two big stakes races from this past weekend. The Sam F. Davis Derby points on the line, along with the Las Virgenes Oaks points on the line out at Santa Anita. Then we'll dive into the stakes montage, some quick hits, get you the weekend's best from a buyer standpoint. DRFTV, what is on deck for the rest of the week, and get you out of here in good order, hopefully nice and tight. You listen podcast form like most of you, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com, video.drf.com, as well as Spotify. Sometimes that little piece, it just all jumbles together and the brain short circuits. You get a little, if you're over on YouTube, click the subscribe button, give us a rating, question, comment, whatever it may be, below the video player. That's all right there. I take a look at that every once in a while. If you're over on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, however you get your stuff, click the subscribe button and give us a rating. It's always greatly appreciated. Let's dive right into it. Let's take a look at the Sam F. Davis. The field for this race, 3-year-olds going a mile and 16th down in Oldsmar, Florida at Tampa Bay Downs, a field of 9. Post-time favorite was Knicks Go. Now, Knicks Go was a horse that ran a very credible and brave race in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He was defeated by 2-year-old champion Game Winner, who is unbeaten at this point. He's yet to make his 3-year-old debut. But outside of him, this felt like, and I shouldn't even say outside of him, including him, this felt like a very open race where you could make legitimate cases for a number of horses, and the odds would vary all over the place. The board could be, you could very easily see this race light up the tote board. You could also see the favorite get the job done. Ultimately, what you got in a race that I felt like the pace was going to heat up, never happened, and one horse took him gate to wire. That was Well Defined. Here's the stretch run of the Sam F. Davis. Well Defined prevails at odds of 7-1.
Down along the inner rail, Knicks Go appears to be struggling third. They're into the stretch, and the upset might be on. It's Well Defined, still in front. Kentucky Wildcat continues to surge at the leader on the outside. Well Defined down to the wire. The local connections, Kathleen O'Connell, Pablo Morales, make every pole a winning one. Kentucky Wildcat second. So
Well Defined prevails at odds of 7-1, gate to wire fashion. An impressive victory over Kentucky Wildcat, who is 2 3/4 lengths back, finishing second as the second choice at 5-2, and the third choice, or excuse me, the third place finisher, and he was the third choice. How about that? So Alive for Pletcher and Castellano, they come from the back of the pack. They round out your trifecta. Let's talk about Well Defined a little bit more. 3 of 7 lifetime, 5 times in the money, just under $500,000 in career earnings, owned and bred by Stonehenge LLC in Florida, trained by Kathleen O'Connell, ridden to victory by Pablo Morales, and you see the pedigree at the bottom of the horse card. He's with distinction out of a Medaglia d'Oro mare named Frou. From a numbers standpoint, this race is respectable. It's not great, it's not bad, it's respectable. A 114 time form U.S. rating, a 93 buyer speed figure for Well Defined, winning the Sam F. Davis, the runner-up Kentucky Wildcat, an 89 buyer and a 109 time form rating. The problem is the top two, well, let's just go with the second place finisher, Kentucky Wildcat, who was well behind the winner. He was nearly 9 lengths ahead of the third place finisher, and that ultimately, to me, I said it in the stakes preview that we did for this race. I said, I'm not going to be having any money in this. It's going to be more sitting back because I don't love anyone in this field. And to be honest, my opinion, I think it, to me anyway, my opinion, the way I'm looking at things right now, was sort of verified and confirmed, because this is, I have a difficult time looking at this race and thinking that we're going to see a major 3-year-old come out of it. Well Defined ran very well. Don't get me wrong. You're not trying to take anything away from him, but at the same time, you can't help but look at it. We talk about it. It's the old adage, pace makes the race. Well, when no one else goes, and look, Well Defined is a fast horse. Naturally, we know what he's capable of on his best day. Here in a 90 buyer as a 2-year-old. But that's when he's out there dictating things on his own. And when he doesn't get the front, he's a different horse. He just is, plain and simple. Well, this race here, when he's able to just go off and open up for fun, and he's not going blisteringly fast. 23-1, 47 for the half, 11 3, and then 42 3 for the final time. I mean, he's a horse that's capable of making other horses pay, particularly other horses that may not be superstars. Well Defined ran very well. There is nothing set in stone. Kathleen O'Connell said Well Defined will let us know. But you would have to imagine that a reasonable next position would be the Tampa Bay Derby, which is on March the 9th. But again, what happens when there is other speed in the race? And what happens when the speed gets to the front and now Well Defined has to sit? Is he as effective? I'm very dubious. I think he is the kind of horse that really excels when he's just by himself on the front. And you know what? I'm not going to completely sit here and say that, you know what, I don't think there's any chance of him running well in a race like the Kentucky Derby. But boy, I need to see what happens when he goes up against better horses to really make a definitive statement or really kind of form a real opinion on Well Defined. I think he's a talented horse, but what happens when things don't go all your way? As far as Kentucky Wildcat, you could make the argument that he was one of the better horses in this race. He came in with all the figures. Now he just needed to prove that he could handle winners. Well, he ran really well in this spot. He came with a nice bid. Couldn't quite get to the loose leader, but he came from well out of it. The problem now, and the unfortunate piece is, he was eased on the gallop out, and then we find out that he has a condylar fracture of the right foreleg. I believe it was the right front. It's not thought to be life-threatening. I believe this is being recorded on Monday. I believe he is having surgery today. So needless to say, he is off the Kentucky Derby trail. So now you take him out of the equation. Now you're left with just a chasm between the winner and the third-place finisher, So Alive. And I know some people brought up So Alive that, oh, he was making up ground and he was so far back. So Alive, his brother is Vino Rosso, and they run exactly the same. They have no idea what's going on. It's difficult for me to sit here and look at a horse like So Alive and think, oh, yes, absolutely, I want to have a lot of stock in him, because he has no idea what he's doing right now. And to be frank, I just don't know how good he actually is. After that, boy, you're stuck looking at a number of horses that were stretching out in distance. You had some horses that were disappointing, including Nixgo, or K Nixgo. He just did not fire. It was not a good effort. He's another horse I think is best when he's on the lead. And I brought it up. Look, he had done enough as a 2-year-old to warrant favoritism in that final race of his 2-year-old campaign. I believe that was the Kentucky Jockey Club. He didn't run well there that day, but I thought it was more a product of, you know what, you ran big in that Breeders' Futurity, you ran big in the Breeders' Cup, and it was sort of the afterthought, maybe you'd be able to get by, and it didn't work. You come here in this race, and he wasn't necessarily a slam dunk winner, but you got to do better than he did. You got to do better than finishing double-digit lengths behind the winner. And now this also continues to make me question the quality of that Breeders' Cup juvenile field. And it makes me think, this is really feeling more and more like, to me, that you want to be taking a look at fresh faces, horses that maybe haven't even run in stakes races yet. There was Global Campaign who ran over at Gulfstream on Saturday afternoon. I know the Buyer came back light, but I think the Buyer could be on the light side. The time form rating for that race was faster, but not brilliant. And look, from his pedigree, maybe Global Campaign doesn't want to go as far as he's going to need to go in some of these bigger races. But the gist is, and the idea is, maybe those are the kind of horses that you should be looking at. Maybe you should be looking at some of the fresh faces, some of the 3-year-olds that have not run in stakes races yet, because what we've seen so far, to me, leaves a lot to be desired. We'll find out. There's plenty of time here, but so far, we're off to I would call it a tepid start to this 3-year-old season as far as classic kind of horses are concerned. K Nix Go wasn't great. 5-Star General wasn't great. Still Dreaming wasn't good. Again, I hate to say it, there's not a lot positive for me to say about this race. Well Defined, we know he can run fast when he has it all his way. What happens when he doesn't have it all his way? You hope for a speedy recovery for Kentucky Wildcat. Hopefully we see him on the track again. And if we don't, hopefully we get to see him go and stand somewhere and be a sire, because there's clearly some ability here, clearly some talent. It's unfortunate that he's come up injured. As far as the rest of the field is concerned, I'm not impressed whatsoever at this point. We're going to need to wait and see. Maybe somebody can take giant steps forward. But right now, these 3-year-olds, the boys anyway, I'm not sold on their chances. Well Defined is the winner of the Sam F. Davis. Don't know where he's going to go next. Sounds like a reasonable spot would be the Tampa Bay Derby, but the connections are going to let the horse tell them where they're going to go. 93 Buyer speed figure and a 114 time form U.S. rating for Well Defined, winning the Sam F. Davis. Oaks points were on the line Saturday out at Santa Anita. Let's take a look at the field for race number 5. This was the Las Virgenes. 3-year-old fillies going a mile on the main track. All eyes were on Bellafina, the 1-9 favorite. We know she basically has done nothing wrong throughout her career. She's proven at 2 turns. She showed that winning the Chandelier as a 2-year-old. All right, the Breeders' Cup didn't work out at Churchill for one reason or another, but she was coming into this race in fantastic form. Her career debut, or her seasonal debut, I should say, in the Santa Ynez was a smashing victory at 7/8. Now we go out to 2 turns. She would have to deal with Mother, a little bit of an equipment change for Baffert's filly. And then Anaya Al-Rab, who was a second-place finisher in a Grade 1, late as a 2-year-old ultimately. Got a little bit more of a horse race, I think, than many sort of would have imagined. Let's take a look at the stretch run of the Las Virgenes.
Bellafina now gets her cue, and Naya Al-Rab is finishing well. Calf Moon Bay on the outside. Mother. It's Bellafina by a length and a half, and Naya Al-Rab running the race of her life, trying to get to Bellafina. Bellafina fully extended, and Naya Al-Rab on the outside. Bellafina wins the Las Virgenes. 3/4 of a length.
Bellafina gets the job done at odds of 1-9, ahead of Anaya Al-Rab, who was the second choice in here at odds of 6-1. Rounding out your trifecta, Calf Moon Bay at odds of 19-1. Let's take a look at Bellafina a little bit more. She is 5 of 7 lifetime, 6 times in the exacta, $828,000 in career earnings. Owned by Kaleem Shah Incorporated, trained by Simon Callahan, bred by JSM Equine LLC in Kentucky, ridden to victory by Flavian Pratt, and you can see the pedigree at the bottom of the horse card. She is by Quality Road out of a Malibu Moon mare named Akron Moon. 90 buyer speed figure for Bellafina in this race, 89 for Anaya Al-Rab. A little bit of an interesting race, in my opinion. It was a little bit more workmanlike for Bellafina. This race played out exactly as we thought it would, as far as the pace situation and how they would ride a horse like Bellafina. We talked about it in the stakes preview for the race. We kind of felt like if you're on the best horse, go on with it, and that's exactly what Flavian Pratt did. Mother did come at her early on. The fractions were honest. I don't think they were just, blistering fast. I think they were honest for a mile. 23, 46-1, 10-1 for 3/4, stop the clock in 35-4. That partially leads me to my tepid feeling of the race as a whole. I don't dislike it, but I don't love it, because they got their final quarter mile, Bellafina and Anaya Al-Rab, in 25:68 and 25:30 respectively. Now, you look at it and say, Anaya Al-Rab to me is a horse that potentially there's additional distance. Maybe she'll benefit a little bit more. But realistically, they both probably should have finished a little bit quicker than they did, I think, anyway. Again, we're not talking about blistering fractions. You've seen some of these mile races where they go 45 to a half, and at Santa Anita, it was a relatively fast strip. There's just a part of me that looks at it and says a little bit, it was good. It wasn't great, and it does make me wonder. People have brought up the distance possibilities or questions for Bellafina going forward. I know she's won at a mile and a 16th in the past. Her next start, it sounds like, is the Santa Anita Oaks on April the 6th, as is the same situation for Anaya Al-Rab. They're going to wait for that race. I wonder at a mile and a 16th, if you get another honest pace situation, someone keeps Bellafina company up front, does a horse like Anaya Al-Rab have an even better chance of turning the tables? And ultimately down the road, whether the connections of Bellafina go on and run her in the Kentucky Oaks, she gets there on her own accord and in good fashion. I do think there is a greater question overall for her. Now, you're not going to just immediately take a horse that wins big races going 2 turns and just say, oh, well, she can't do it. If she wins the Santa Anita Oaks and for one reason or another it doesn't work in the Kentucky Oaks, I'm sure they will continue on to some other spots. But there is just that part of me that in the back of my head wonders, long term, is she ultimately a sprinter as opposed to a mile and an 1/8 type? It's one thing to talk about, the Santa Anita Oaks at a mile and a 16th. She won the Chandelier at a mile and a 16th. Heck, even the Breeders' Cup, where she didn't run all that well, that was at a mile and a 16th. The Kentucky Oaks is a mile and an 1/8. And then you get through the rest of the summer. That's when everything kind of stretches out. You get out to the mile and an 1/8 races, obviously the mile and a quarter in the Alabama, but the mile and an 1/8, in a number of different spots. The CCA Oaks, I believe it's a mile and a 16th for the Cotillion, so that one's always going to be a little bit of a tweener. But I do look at it more and more and wonder, is a race like the Acorn ultimately a little bit better suited for a filly like this, a 1-turn mile? And then come Breeders' Cup time, is the filly and mare sprint going to be a better spot for her as opposed to a race like the Distaff? It is far too early to make definitive statements, but I think these are things that you need to at least consider going forward. As far as Anaya Al-Rab, again, I do feel like perhaps she's one that will appreciate a little bit more ground. And I do wonder, too, with her running style, I wonder if she'll appreciate getting out of Southern California when it's all said and done. I think she's an interesting one in here. As far as the rest of the field is concerned, fine effort from Calf Moon Bay. Mother was forward, pushed the pace, paid the price late. Ultimately, turn back, I think, is needed for her. And Tomlin, they took a chance. It didn't work out. I'm not going to fault the connections for that. But ultimately, Bellafina prevails. A little bit more workmanlike than what we've been accustomed to seeing from her in most of her victories. They're usually very, very flashy. This one, not so much. Workmanlike, but effective. She gets the job done. 90 buyer in the Las Virgenes. It sounds like the top 2. They will have another date on April the 6th in the Santa Anita Oaks. Now, that wraps up these two big reviews that we'll do. Now we'll throw it into the quick hits and the stakes montage. We'll go through a number of different races. You've got the San Marcos out at Santa Anita. You got the Endeavor down at Tampa, the Tampa Bay down at Tampa, the Suncoast. You got all sorts of good stuff in there. So we'll go through, we'll rip through the stakes montage. I'll come back with some quick hits, and we'll get you into the weekend's best as far as Buyer's speed figure performances are concerned.
Lead at the top of the stretch and quickly opens up two on Roman Rosso. Unapologetics had a good trip. On the far outside comes Beachview and Dabster. Epical is coming alive in the center, but in the meantime, Platinum Warrior has a 4-length lead. Epical is closing stoutly. Beachview on the outside with a late bid. It's going to be Platinum Warrior to win the San Marcos. Epical was second.
Special Event is backpedaled after that mid-race move as Valedictorian tries to do it every step. Eighth of a mile to go. Valedictorian by 3.5. Rimska's in high gear but running out of ground. Peach of a Gala's now third, then Vagabond Princess. Then it's up front to Valedictorian. She went all the way. Valedictorian gate to wire to win the Swanee
It's
River.
wide open as they fan 4 across the track. Along the rail, Heart to Heart is digging in gamely. Irish Straight is surging at the leader second. Here's Inspector Lindley. Ortiz works out a trip toward the rail. And up on the outside with a late run is Diversadero. And on the far outside, here comes Corbon in a blanket finish. Souted down, going after the leader second. Bonnie Arch is there toward the rail now, racing along third as they straighten away in the run to the wire. It's Conquest Hard Candy still in front. Here's Huxmore charging down the center of the racetrack. And way out on the outside, Viva Vegas. The gray horse is absolutely flying. Huxmore to take it by a diminishing 3/4 of a length. Viva
Cut loose at the top of the stretch. Up to engage LeCan with a furlong left to go. Just behind them, River Boyne is trying to negotiate a very narrow hole. He didn't get through. And on the outside, True Valor, a driving finish. Ohio, True Valor. LeCan fights on. True Valor takes the lead, and it's True Valor and Andrea Atzeni to win it.
From the inside, Abiding Star. Mr. Cub needs out. He gets out. He's up now to challenge for the lead. Down the center and CM Reap from last. It's Hembry. Final eighth of a mile. Uncle B tries to hold him off here. Hembry down the center. Mr. Cub from between horses, and then it's Krampus in deep stretch. Hembry from way back up in time. Second is Mr. Cub. Third
Point
is
of Honor continues to grind away third, and they straighten away and cut to the wire in the Suncoast. Up on the outside, Point of Honor explodes and now moves to the lead. Along the rail is Lady Kate, but Point of Honor in front impressively under Javier Castellano by a widening 3. Lady Kate was second, Sweet Diane third. Winning envelope.
Coliseum will try to keep pace with him, but Desmond has the upper hand coming to the 8th pole, drifts in, opens up 2. Sparkyville switches to the outside. He's running a giant race. Desmond and Sparkyville, these are the 2. Desmond digging in. Sparkyville's trying to run him down. Sparkyville has the momentum. Desmond has the lead. Sparkyville gets up to win the San Vicente in a thriller. Desmond fought him all the way. Puts her head in front. Splashy kisses. There's room at the rail for Apache Princess, and she takes off. Apache Princess quickly puts 2 lengths on Thriving and Splashy Kisses. The DeSormo brothers will strike in the Sweet Life Stakes as Apache Princess is very impressive in victory. She strolls in by 3.5. It's an extremely
Get
close.
some quick hits, some quick thoughts. Then we'll go into the Buyers. We'll get you the DRFTV schedule of events, and then we'll get out of here. We'll get you on your way. Just some quick rips. San Marcos, fine effort from the top 2 finishers, Platinum Warrior, Epical, even if you want to include Beachview there. Third, I think the horse that you're most interested in, or you should be most interested in, coming out of that race from a trip standpoint is Chicago Style, who never got a chance to run at the top of the lane, stacked up behind horses. Finally got a little bit of room late, but it was far too late then. I thought he's the one that, to me, out of that race that you want to give another opportunity to. Not taking anything away from the top 2 or 3. I think they all ran quite well. The Thunder Road, the obvious trip for River Boyne. There's just a part of me, though, that looks at it and says, even if he gets through, is he really that much better than everyone else? From a number standpoint, he's not. And, maybe he wins that race, maybe he doesn't. But if he wins, I don't think he wins by 4. Put it that way. I think he's a nice horse. I have a difficult time seeing him as a grade 1 caliber miler. I think he is sort of living in that range along again. I mean, look at the horses that were there at the wire. I think that's kind of where he lives right now. Unless he takes that next step forward, I'm not sure that he can run with the best milers. Maybe he would have been best in there if not for the trip, but at the same time, I don't know for certain that he would have been. Suwannee River, valedictorian. She absolutely walked the dog on the front end. You likely want to downgrade that effort a little bit just because of the pace dynamics. On the flip side, you'd likely want to give Rimska a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But to be frank, I said it when I did the Tampa Pick 4 video. If she were to go there, I'm not totally sure how good she actually is. I think she's fine, don't get me wrong. But I don't think she's grade 1 or grade 2 caliber. I think she belongs in these races. The figure would kind of bear that out. But again, it's very difficult to earn a fast figure as far as buyers are concerned, given a lack of pace. It's going to be difficult for a fast final time. Again, I'm not sold on her against better horses. Against that level, with a better pace situation, she can certainly get the job done. I don't know if she is still grade 1 caliber. The El Prado, wicked pace, helped the horses coming from way off of it. Cowboy Culture was forced to wait a little bit before he was able to be produced. He came on with a little bit of a belated bid to finish 4th. The horse that absolutely didn't run a lick, or never got a chance to run. And I don't know that he would have been a threat in this race. I don't know if he's good enough. But he is the kind of horse that, in a little bit of an easier spot, Holiday Stone had zero chance. Go back and watch that tape. You can watch the stretch run. He's down there on the inside in those orange and pink silks, and he legitimately has nowhere to go. He can't run one step at all. He's one that I think you want to keep an eye on, because it wouldn't be crazy, I don't think, to see him show up in a non-stakes event next time out, but he still might offer a decent price, because that running line at face value, if you don't see the trip, is going to look dreadful. It's going to look like he never even picked his feet up. He didn't, but for reason. I think he's one that you just at least want to throw in your DRF horse watch. One to keep an eye on going forward. The Tampa Bay Stakes, I don't know that Heart to Heart can run anymore. He's the kind of horse that in his best form, he would have pounded that field given the trip. I know he went fast early, but this is Heart to Heart. This is his game. You saw how eager he was down the front side. It just makes me wonder if he's lost a fair amount on that fastball. Inspector Lindley shot up the rail. It was a perfect trip for him, saving every inch of ground the entire way in the pocket. Then he's able to go through down on the inside. Again, from a trip standpoint, you probably want to downgrade him slightly. Unlikely you're going to work out an ideal trip again in your next spot. The Suncoast, I tweeted about it. I'm quite high on Point of Honor. I thought that was a very impressive effort from her, albeit likely on the best part of the racetrack as opposed to the filly that ran second there, Lady Kate. She ended up down on the inside, so maybe her effort could have been slightly better had she been out on a more favorable portion of the track, but I really was impressed with Point of Honor. We'll find out ultimately where she goes. I think she's a solid one, and I think she could be a legitimate 3-year-old filly here. She's one that we may still hear some things from her. I don't know that I want to go as far as to pin anything on anyone, but boy, early on, if I could take a future bet on a horse for a race like the Oaks, I wouldn't be opposed to taking a look at her. I think Point of Honor is nice. San Vicente, sloppy track. Obviously, you want to take everything with a grain of salt, especially in Southern California. The fact that Sparkyville was able to overcome being down on the inside, having to steady at the top of the lane, sharply angle out to 4-5 path, and still go and run down Desmond, it makes me think that field just is not very good. Sparkyville is a nice horse, but I don't know that anyone is looking at him saying he's going to end up being a grade 1 caliber sprinter. Coliseum was disappointing again. Desmond thought I thought he ran fine, but you got to beat Sparkyville given the trip that Sparkyville had. Left something to be desired there. And then Sweet Life, a beautiful trip for Apache Princess. Great ride from Kent to Sormo. She's able to shoot up the inside. Like I said, though, with all those Santa Anita races on Sunday, with that rain, you got to just take it all with a little bit of a grain of salt, because some of those horses, some of them have never even seen a wet track before. So take all those with a little bit of a grain of salt, but a perfect trip for Apache Princess. And again, perhaps, usually you don't want to be betting perfect trip horses back in their next race, but there are different circumstances. Just something to keep an eye on. So there you have some quick hits, some quick thoughts from the stakes montage this week. Let's take a look at the weekend's best from a buyer standpoint. We'll go right in order. The 3-year-old males, Sparkyville and Desmond. You just saw them, 94 buyers. At face value, it looks good. I have a difficult time looking at that, saying how good could that field be if Sparkyville really had no business winning that race, unless he's just completely turned a corner and now he's turned into a potential star. Who knows? 3-year-old fillies on dirt, Bellafina, we talked about her. She earned the 90 in the Las Virgenes. 3-year-old males on grass, Valid Point, and 81 in a maiden special at Gulfstream. 3-year-old fillies on turf, Claws, and 82 in a maiden special weight down at Gulfstream. Older males on dirt, Heavy Roller, a 99 in an allowance at Oaklawn. Older fillies and mares, Bluegrass, Jamboree, a 95 and an N1X at the Big A. Older males on grass, Inspector Lindley, we saw that with the 101 buyer in the Tampa Bay Stakes. And then older fillies and mares on turf, Hawksmoor, the 95 in the Endeavor down at Tampa. There you have it, the weekend's best as far as buyer speed figure performances are concerned. Let's take a quick look at what's on deck this week for DRFTV. You're going to have plenty of stakes previews. We've got the Risen Star coming up on Saturday afternoon. That is a Kentucky Derby points race. Big full field, should be a good race, good betting race as well. You'll have stakes previews. You'll have DRF Bets races of the day. You'll have out of the gate, you'll have the preview edition of the Matt Bernier Show. You'll have a number of different things. Breeding report, you got it. It's all going to be out there. Video.drf.com, as well as the Daily Racing Forms YouTube channel. If you've been listening live, thank you for doing so. Those of you in podcast land, though, like most of you, you've got Apple Podcasts, iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, you name it. So many different ways. Video.drf.com as well. If you're over on YouTube, click the subscribe button. You'll get everything that DRF TV has to offer. Thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever you see fit. Questions, comments, concerns beneath the video player on YouTube. If you listen, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is, click that subscribe button. Give us a rating. Give us a little review. Whatever you want to do. If you want to follow me on Twitter @Bernier_Matt. Again, questions, comments, concerns, I'm back there. I will be back with the preview show on Friday. We'll go over something. Got some time to figure out what that's going to be. But until then, best of luck however you play, whatever you play, wherever you play. This has been the Matt Bernier Show.